welcome to the show. Next couple of weeks I'm going to focus on organizations and personalities making a change in South African society. And one of those organizations and personalities are here with me today. And that's Shaheema Mcloud. And she's the director of the Saartjie Baartman Centre for Women and Children. And we're going to find out exactly what they do and how they do it. Shaheema, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Now, we've always heard this name, Saartjie Baartman. And we understand that your centre deals with children and women that are abused as a main focus. Yes. And obviously you look at any other violent crime that might have happened and how that affected people. And you assist those people. But before we get to that point, I want to sort of look into the history of the centre itself and also the name that has inspired the centre itself. And that's Saartjie Baartman. What can you tell me?
Well, our centre was established in May 1999. It was the brainchild of Peter Murray, who said, you know, there should be services available to women and children that can be accessed from one central point. And that was the birth of Saartjie Baartman Centre for Women and Children. Why we named ourselves that was specifically to honor Sarah Baartman, who died tragically in France many, many years ago, and whose body was brought back to South Africa. So we try to honor her memory because of the undignified way in which she was treated and because of her untimely death at the age of 27 and the hardships that she had endured in her journey.
So obviously we look at the abuse and the history of abuse with her, and we correlate that to modern day times, and we see that this trend continues and has continued throughout the timeline of man. So again, the need for centres like what you run, and that's we find a spate of people, especially women and children, that are still being abused. Although we find ourselves in 2016, these things still happen. They might have changed shape and size a little bit, but they're still happening. Let's look into the history of the centre itself. We understand that Peter started the centre, if I'm correct, yes. And he obviously saw the need for that. So let's look a bit into the history.
Absolutely, it's exactly as you said. You know, South Africa is a country that's marred by high levels of violence, particularly against our vulnerable communities, women and children. And when we first opened our doors, we had 16 NGOs that were based on the premises providing an array of services. Over the years, unfortunately, many of those NGOs have had to close their doors due to a lack of resources and funding available. Trends change, unfortunately. But the Saartjie Baartman Centre continued in its work to assist those women and children in our communities that have suffered as a result of, you know, those social ills that plague our communities, such as gangsterism, unemployment, gender-based violence, substance abuse. Those are key triggers that lead women to the Saartjie Baartman Centre. In terms of the services that we deliver, we've got an array of services. One of our core programs is our residential program, where we accommodate 100 women and children at any given time. So it's moms coming in with their children up to the age of 18 with them. And the reason why we've done that is because, you know, this family unit has already been through quite a traumatic experience, and we don't want to further separate that unit. And we need an opportunity to work with the children in terms of preventative work and showing particularly our boy child that there's a different way of managing conflict within the home or within a relationship with your partner.
Other than that, what he might have been exposed to prior to that, which might become a generation to generation matter because of what children see. But taking one step back, so if you look at the actual services of the centre, and I want to get a bit practical about this. So I'm sitting in the lounge at the centre. What do I see coming in by the door?
Well, you're going to see a woman or child walking through, not knowing exactly what services it is that she needs to access. So the first thing that happens is that we go through an assessment process where our trained professionals will assist the client in establishing exactly what it is that she's looking for and how can we make those services available to her. We would then coordinate that process for her. We would either do a referral to one of our internal programs, or we will link her with other government organizations or NGO agencies that can assist her in that process.
So is this a myriad of operations in terms of, or a myriad of applications that does get applied here. For instance, somebody comes in from a battered home, they have been beaten up, they've been abused, they've been thrown out of the home, so there's multiple problems happening.
Yes.
Do you sort of take that person and say, let me assess, you don't have a home, you don't have food, you need counseling and trauma therapy for these reasons, maybe you need psychotherapy for those reasons, whatever it might be. Do you actually do the entire package and then output the person back into society on that side?
Correct.
And what are those processes?
Okay. Well, it's exactly as you say. we look at our life as an entirety, and we say, well, this is what we can assist you with. And of course, the most important thing is there an immediate threat of safety for you? And we can provide you with a safe accommodation. From there, we will make the links to our other agencies, and internally, of course, we will look at the therapeutic intervention. We will look at accredited skills training, because she may not have had a high level of education, she may be financially reliant on a partner, and we need to change those dynamics. Then we look at the legal intervention. Is it a protection order that you need? Are you interested in getting applying for maintenance for your children? Is there a divorce application that we need to consider? Or do we need to engage with religious leaders to have another dialogue in terms of, is there some intervention that you're looking for on a spiritual level? And we will make those links, hence the term of a one-stop center, and having the ability to make all those connections, or connecting all the dots for the individual, and then making that happen for her.
So if we're looking at numbers, I know that before the show we started talking about statistics to a certain point. I'm not sure where the statistic is available at this stage, but you as a center pick up a spike in the last couple of months, and so I want to maybe just go and retrace the roots of that. So can we safely say that we have a situation where there is an economic downturn, and that downturn could lead to various pressures within home environments that could turn to violence? I'm just trying to path out how this all happens. That could lead to violence, and from violence things might not look that good down the line, or there might be not a possibility of things being resolved on a home level, and that's where the center might need to intervene to get that out of the way. But there's a problem. The problem is that if we look at the economic downturn, it could be a root cause of various social ills, from drug habits down to theft and misdemeanors that lead to various other issues. Does centers like yourself not pick up that spate and that increase because we are sliding financially, whether some of us want to acknowledge that or not? The recent political changes in the country is forcing us to look at the rand and dollar, and when we look at the rand and dollar, we know that we are in trouble. How does that influence, and how has it been influencing what you do in terms of numbers?
Yes, well, in terms of numbers, since December, the centre has seen a 150% increase.
Since December?
Since December. That is the number of clients trying to access services.
Is that figure opposed to last year, December?
As opposed to last year, December, yes. And as I mentioned,
how do you cope with that?
It's with some great difficulty, but the passion drives us. So we never give up. It takes a toll on myself and my colleagues in terms of what we are able to manage and what we are able to deal with as individuals. But what's the positive thing is the fact that we're seeing clients having the ability to step out of that situation and ask for the help that's needed. So that for us, we certainly see as a positive, because it means that the education and the awareness that we are making available to the community is working. They feel that they have more self-worth. They have the ability to see a brighter future for themselves and the children, and they're wanting to change the tide. So that for us is definitely a positive outcome as to what has been unraveling itself within the South African context.
So if you see this spike in the amount of people that you guys need to see to and attend to, obviously we're looking at an exponential timeline. Do you honestly see that turning down next year, or do you see that going up based on various factors, surrounding factors?
It's incredibly difficult to predict, unfortunately. For the past few years, we have seen a year-on-year increase of around about 60-65%. So in our 16 years of existence, we've seen 179,000 women and children coming through our doors.
179,000.
Yes, coming
That's
through
a
our doors.
serious amount of people.
Yes. Well, it gives you an indication of how big the problem is. You know, you touched on the economy. South Africa, in the last research study that was done in 2014, we are spending a whopping 28.4 billion rand minimum on gender-based violence. So when I say
And that's gender-based violence,
yes.
that's one category.
So this is how it impacts the economy. We're talking about support services that are available to women and children. We're talking about the work scenario. If a woman is beaten or if she's being abused within the home, she doesn't have the ability to go to work. So that means a loss of income for the organization that she works for. It's time off, it's resources lost, and this is all the factors that come into play. So the estimation was done at 24.8 billion to 42 billion. That is the average amount that we are spending on our economy annually.
And then you're dealing with youth and narcotics, for example, and we know that on the Cape Flats, we're talking about things like TIC and those kind of things which have taken control of people's lives. I've been trying to deal with TIC abusers on a friendly social basis to see how we talk to them and how we assist them. Must be honest with you, I do sometimes turn around and say, I'm not sure how we're going to do this because it's a mind of their own. They're after what they want to do and they see nothing else. And so how do you deal with all of that?
The unfortunate reality, and one of the things that we've picked up in the last few months, is that the clients that present at the Saartjie Baartman Centre are, one, becoming younger, and secondly, 80% of our clients are abusing some form of substance, whether it be alcohol, drugs, whatever the case may be, they are abusing it. For one, look, there's various reasons why people delve into that dark place, but one of it that comes through quite sharply from us and from our clients is that they use drugs as a coping mechanism for the social ills that they are faced with on a daily basis within the community. And it's incredibly worrying. It is a beast that no one has got control over, and we are really struggling to make headway and to come up with a plan, a true intervention that sees very positive results at the end of the day.
Tell us about the real stories. Somebody that might have come into the centre battered, beaten up, totally lost, delusional, not sure what the direction is in life, that you guys have turned around, that you look at today and say, was that you?
Yes.
I'm sure you have many of those.
Oh,
and that must be a
yes.
very heartwarming feeling to see that happening. Tell us a bit about it.
You know, perhaps I can just tell you that in terms of our residential program, the length of stay for a client. In our shelter, there is a 4 to 5 month stay for any woman and her children. Some families have the option of applying for an additional 6 months with us in an independent living program. While they're living in the shelter, we provide them with all their needs. So all that you need to focus on is yourself as an individual, working on remedying the situation, whether it be...
So food, accommodation, all those things are taken care of?
Everything. Food, stationery for the kids.
That I'm thinking cost at the moment.
Yes,
right.
yes.
But I'll come back to that.
Our food budget is 32,000 Rand a month to feed the women and children that live with us. We provide them with every conceivable need. We assist them with placement of their children in schools because that's important that the structure is maintained for the children as well. Then when the client moves into second stage, the 8 families can do so. And they stay for 6 months, and during that time they make a financial contribution of 400 Rand. At the end of that stay, we reimburse them in full. That money they then use to either build up some some resources, acquiring some appliances for themselves, or using it as a deposit when moving back into the community. What I'm trying to say is that it's an incredibly short time to rebuild your life. And I take my hat off to those clients. You know, I see women on a daily basis walking in, as you say, broken individuals. It may not be physical injuries, but emotionally and mentally exhausted individuals. and at the end of their time, to see that individual, the transformation that takes place. I don't like the word empowered, but that is exactly what it is. You see someone that has self-worth, that thinks a lot more of herself than she did when she walked through those doors initially, and having a clear direction about what it is that she wants to do for herself and her children. We certainly don't dictate that you have to leave your partner. If you want to attempt marriage counseling, we'll make that connection for you. But if you choose divorce, we're also going to assist you with that process. Our whole thinking is about giving you the tools, giving you the information so that you can go back and change the dynamics of the relationship or change your life path.
How does your staff and the counsellors that are at the centre deal with having certain issues that come in via clients? How do they deal with it themselves personally? Because we do have situations where counsellors can sort of evoke certain emotions because of what they've experienced in their past and their relationships, and that is being transferred from the client to the counsellor. So you have a situation where the counsellor seems to need to be held at the same time. What's in place in the centre to deal with your staff itself?
Well, self-care is absolutely paramount for the Saartjie Baartman Centre team. We encourage our counsellors, particularly the social workers and the psychologists, to go out and get external supervision. They also get internal supervision to help them deal with a situation. And as you mentioned, sometimes what the client's experiencing resonates with you as an individual. If those scenarios unfold, we have a clear policy. The staff member is withdrawn from the counselling scenario so that she has time to deal with that process herself. And once she has been given a clean bill, for lack of a better word, she can go back to her core job within the Saartjie Baartman Centre.
Speaking about the staff, tell us about them. Are they're obviously very passionate about what they do and how they do that. So there must be many nights of call-outs. There must be many strange hours that one is commissioned to do things, and many hours in a line where you were supposed to be spending time with the family, but there's someone else that needs your help. What do you say to them?
Well, one of the first things we do when we interview potential staff of Saartjie Baartman Centre, we make it very clear that this cannot be a job. It cannot be, if your expectation is that it's a normal 8 to 4 job.
Yes, the number 8 and 4 doesn't exist on the clock.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't exist because the centre is open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we do have core staff during the day, we do have after-hours staff. But as you say, from time to time, we are called in to crisis manage a situation. And if your expectation is that you are going to have a normal 8-hour working day, that doesn't exist. It's the passion that drives myself and my colleagues. If this wasn't something that we felt as part of our core that we wanted to do, then we wouldn't be there.
So we see that operationally things are going well at the centre. We know that some years ago there were some challenges, but it seems like you've overcome those challenges. I know that that was out in the media, but I think it's important to know that when there's a challenge, to overcome the challenge. And that's the essence of the centre in any case. Yeah. So we're looking at the future. There must be a bright future, and there must be some planning that's going along and some vision that you have as a director for the centre. What are some of them?
Well, as you mentioned, you know, we went through a crisis and we decided to look at our strategic development and changing the way that we manage our business. It's an NGO, but it is a business essentially.
I like what you're saying, because I maintain that also. Yeah. You cannot attend to someone else's needs if your needs are not taken care of. It sounds selfish, but it's the truth. So for you to be able to care for all those people and pay 30,000 odd rand for their food, your bills need to be paid first. Yes. So seeing the business component in the social component is probably the best model.
Yeah, it works incredibly well for the centre. I feel that if the community and the corporate sector and the government sector for that matter are making an investment in the Saartjie Baartman Centre, we need to have the best practice model, we need to show that we can be held accountable for the way that we manage the finances that they've entrusted to us. It's not a matter of just offering a service to the community and being a learning institution. It is about saying to your donor that this is what we've agreed to do. These are activities, this is our implementation plan, and we intend to follow through on that. We monitor that through two mechanisms. The one is a statistical database that we use as a research tool as well to provide concrete evidence of the number of people we assisted. What are the trends? What is it, the new interventions that is necessary within our sector and within the South African context? Then we look at what is known as the WebPass system, which is a national database that's been developed to monitor the interaction and the route a client takes from the time that she walks through our doors to the services that she is engaged with, the referral agencies that we've contacted to offer an extended service to her, and monitoring that to also track when the ball has been dropped and to hold those individuals accountable. Because we've got some of the best legislation in the world. The problem with South Africa is there's a lack of political will and there's a lack of implementation. And as an NGO and as our responsibility to the community, we have to ensure that those things are highlighted and that we act on that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. The fact that you're saying that the systems are there, but if the systems are there and they're being ignored, then they might as well not be there. So we're looking at those plans. Are there plans to branch out? Are there plans to increase the size of the centre? Perhaps I know that this means that you are making the problem bigger than you already have. Yeah. But as you said, the problem is getting bigger in any case. Yes. And it's difficult to turn people down. So what do you do?
It is absolutely. We turn away an average of 10 to 15 women a day at Saartjie Baartman Centre per day. But what we do is we link them to other shelters.
So it's not a turn down. No. It's a referral in the end of the way. Yeah.
That's particularly for safe accommodation for those individuals to other shelters that we work very closely with in the Western region. The ability to branch out, we would certainly love to do that, but that requires finances and the ability to have a space where you can provide safe accommodation and support services to individuals. What we're doing in the meanwhile is that we share our model of practice, not only with other provinces, but with other countries, so that we can, on a global scale, have some sort of impact and influence. And what has been tried and tested, what works for us, having the ability to see that filter out in other areas as well.
You mentioned finances, and obviously that is an underpinning word to any operation because everything rotates around finances, like we mentioned earlier. How do you deal with that? Because yes, I think it's simple and easy for certain people when there's an appeal to come forward and say, here's 1,000 rand, but that's going to go till that day and it's going to end there. And that's what we normally do. But there needs to be sustainable mechanisms in place to manage that from a sustainable point of view. So how do you cope from a finance point of view? Is government involved or are they not involved?
Yes, the Saartjie Baartman Centre receives funding from the Victim Empowerment Program, which is a branch within the Department of Social Development, provincial level. So 30% of our annual expenses is covered by them. The rest, we write loads and loads of funding proposals to various institutions within South Africa. And we also do the My Village Card initiative, and a large percentage of our donations in kind as well as financial donations, come from the corporate sector and the community directly, who see the purpose of Saartjie Baartman Centre and what we're trying to achieve.
The corporate sector is definitely not absent in this model at all.
No, they're certainly not absent. They understand that, it impacts them on some level. Yeah, it speaks to their staff that they employ. It's happening within the confines of their homes as well. And they have to take responsibility. This is not an isolated area. It's certainly not a comfortable area, but it is one that is far too pervasive in South Africa, and everyone needs to take responsibility for that.
What's on the wish list for the centre, maybe 2 or 3 items that might be on the wish list for the next year?
Our top priority is to have a service available to our clients that present with substance problems. We need to have a very structured intervention program that speaks to an inpatient detox unit to be formulated at the Saartjie Baartman Centre. It is not, the operational cost for a substance abuse unit is incredibly high, but it is a much needed component of our work. This is not something that's going to disappear in the next few months. It's not a trend. It is something that is here for a while, and we need to listen to the needs of our community and take our lead from them. And if this is the intervention that they're calling for, that is something that we need to provide. So we certainly, we have an active drive where we are encouraging the corporate sector to please step in, engage in dialogue with us, where we can present our model to you and have the ability to make this happen for particularly the Cape Flats community.
Shaheema, an opportunity to thank, who would you like to thank for doing what you guys do?
Well, of course, we'd be nothing without our donors. But I would be remiss not to thank my colleagues for the amazing, they put in 110% or 150% every single day when they walk through those doors. They put their lives at risk every single day. And of course, to our clients that have come to the Saartjie Baartman Centre, it is an incredibly rewarding field to be in. It may be hard, but it's an incredibly humbling experience to have the ability to lend a hand to an individual and to be a point of light for them. One day, who knows, the offer, what is the word I'm looking for? The favor may be returned in another way.
Great.
Yes.
Shaheema, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Very inspiring. Shaheema, and she's from the Saartjie Baartman Centre for Women and Children, and they're doing lots of work that obviously inspires other South Africans to do the same and get involved. And that's the message we want to leave with you, and that's get involved. Organizations sometimes don't only require your finances, but require your time as a volunteer or your support in any other way, because the world out there is a tough one, especially in South Africa at this time, where we find ourselves at a very strange economic junction. Until next time, goodbye.